Welcome back to Architectural Adventures, brought to you by Historic Springfield Society. I'm your host, Kylie. Thanks for joining me as we tour Springfield's architectural curiosities. Today, I'm showing you one of my favorite topics, doorknobs. So here, we have what is called a rim lock, which sits on the outer part of the door. This primitive style of hardware was very common in colonial-era America, but believe it or not, it was still being sold well into the 1940s. It is mounted to the outer part of the door instead of the later mortise lock, which I'll show you in a moment. This style of porcelain knob is known as a Bennington or a mineral knob. Bennington was a company that was well known for producing this style of mineral doorknobs. At the time, porcelain doorknobs were common in early bathrooms. So now that we've looked at the primitive rim lock, I'll show you what followed. So here, we've moved from the rim lock to what is called the mortise lock. The mortise is the cavity that's carved on the inner part of the door, and then the mortise lock is the lock box that's inserted within the mortise. This part here, known as the latch bolt, can be flipped depending on the swing direction of the door. This style of hardware is rather plain and was meant for a working class family around the turn of the century. Depending on the manufacturer, it would have been branded as standard or Chicago style, but it would have been considered builder grade hardware. If you were wealthy at the time, you would have probably had either cast brass or bronze hardware in a very intricate pattern. You'll notice that on this hardware, this old style knob has a rather long shank. These were common around the turn of the century, but were soon phased out because they required more materials and were more costly to manufacture. So if you are restoring a home in Springfield, chances are you may have a knob that looks like this. So believe it or not, these knobs did look like this at one point before they were restored. So what has happened here? These knobs are metal, and they had a process applied to them originally which was called electroplating. So that is a thin layer of either brass or copper which was applied to the metal. Now in this case, when the paint was removed, it removed the electroplating. But in many other cases, the many years of being handled wears it away. So what you can do is, you can apply some spray paint and a good clear sealant, and then these original knobs will be good for another 100 years. And the last knob I want to show you is another advancement in technology. With these old knobs, they required a set screw to affix to the spindle in the door. Now, when we move on to the ubiquitous glass doorknob, we have a threaded end that's screwed onto the spindle. So the glass doorknobs became popular around 1915 due to World War I and a shortage of metals because of the war effort. So these doorknobs were common then. And if you have a fluted doorknob in your house that's glass, then that probably dates to the 1920s or 30s. I'm glad we got a handle on things. Thanks for joining me on Architectural Adventures. We'll see you next time.